Hello, everybody. This is No One Unscripted, and we are Utopia walking for real this time. This episode, I'm going to talk about the first January 6th committee hearing that happened 2 days ago um, on Thursday. I'm going to try to keep this one short as some of you have requested that my videos be a little shorter. I'm going to try. And some of you asked me of what I thought about the hearings. I thought that the hearings were a very well um, presented uh, beginning of what happened. I stand on this side of the looking glass, and I have been warning about the seditious conspiracy by Donald Trump for uh, today will be 577 days. And at first, a lot of people doubted it. And as we stand today, three people, Joshua James, Brian Ulrich, and William Todd Wilson, have pled guilty to seditious conspiracy, the very exact same charge um, that I forecasted on November 10th, 2020, about eight weeks before the insurrection. Now, uh, and there are dozens of people at this point, five Proud Boys and eight more, or more than a dozen, I should say dozens, more than a dozen, who have been indicted for seditious conspiracy. The latest batch of them were the Proud Boys, um, most infamous among them, Enrique Tarrio. And I think that the committee hearings focused on two very important places where we need to begin. One is the connection between what happened at the Capitol on January 6th and its very real connection, very sort of almost grassroots to the top connection to Donald Trump. And first of all, I'd like to say, um, Officer Edwards, thank you so much for defending our republic, and those sitting behind you, Officer Fanone, Dunn, Aguilino, and I don't know if Officer Hodges was there, and all the rest of you, and the 140 who were seriously injured, and Officer Sicknick, and the other four who died afterwards as a result of January 6th. I, you know, I salute your service and I thank you for defending our republic. Uh, so, uh, and I think the beginning with her testimony was incredibly important because we had to understand what it culminated into. What was happening was a lynching mob racing towards the Capitol, and these officers were defending the line, overwhelmed 10-1. And that's why it's significant that Chairman Thompson brought up his background and how he grew up in an area of the country where uh, lynchings were part of the conversation, and he had to reconcile with that. And I've talked about my experience with stories of lynching on one of my service trips to the Appalachia in one of my previous videos. I mean, it's so pervasive and woven into the ugly past, into our ugly past of our country. And we have a chance now of revisiting it and uprooting it for good. And that's what I have been railing about for the past 18 months is that we have the opportunity to really uproot this bigotry, this hate, this sedition, if we can get enough people awake. And I believe that if these testimonies by these officers don't at least um, evoke some sort of sympathy, some sort of compassion, some sort of understanding for what they were standing up for and what they were defending against, then perhaps the fog of disinformation that is coming from what is now the GOP establishment will stop, will abate. But I'm not going to, I'm not going to have that much faith because just in that, because there it has to be a multi-pronged effect, multi-pronged approach. So that beginning was amazing, and then followed up by that connecting that attack, her attack, to what came afterwards with the documentary of Mr. Quested. It was to the point in the sense it was precision, like a sharp as you can get scalpel, and going straight to the coordination of Enrique Tarrio on January 5th, the day before the insurrection. Mind you, he wasn't at the insurrection on the 6th, but he was there on the 5th. And you know when else he was there in Washington, D.C.? He was at the White House on December 12th, 2020, 4 weeks, less than, about 4 weeks, a little less than 4 weeks before the insurrection. So that connection needed to be made because Enrique Tarrio is, as of now, at least as of we know, because he's the most publicized person who met with Donald Trump at the White House a month before the insurrection. And then he again went to specifically a coordination meeting in DC a day before the insurrection. And because he's the most public and the most notorious, because he vandalized a historically significant African American church in DC. He burned the Black Lives Matter flag that was hanging there, and he was charged for it, and I think he spent time in prison, and he came out, and I mean, he was restricted by the courts, and he still did this. So when his time comes, because the charge has already been laid of seditious conspiracy, I hope when the conviction comes down, the sentencing is the maximum sentence of 20 years. So I think I covered the hearing, and I want to thank Liz Cheney for her service to the country and the Constitution, for her understanding that this is more than partisan politics. This is so much more than partisan politics, and we're not going to understand how big this is. And I've said this before, if you stand at the base of Mount Everest, you're not going to be able to see the summit. You're not going to be able to see the very top of it. When I was young, I lived for a period of time at the foothills facing the third highest peak in the world, the Kanchenjunga. And let me tell you, I mean, this is what this conspiracy feels like in comparison to Watergate, which I think is the only gauge we have, considering that everything that happens in pop culture is now a gate, and I think after January 6th, we're going to need to come up with a new gate that'll probably come out of these public hearings and then the DOJ. Last thing I want to leave you with, and I'm keeping this at 10 minutes because this is all like real talk, and I apologize because my dog was making noise earlier, but I think it's kind of endearing, so I'm gonna sell it. I'm gonna sell him. He's expensive. He eats chicken and rice every day. Anyway, the last thing. What's the last thing? See, he makes me forget things. Yeah. So pay attention. If you're on Twitter, pay attention to Department of Justice National Security Division, Every single seditious conspiracy indictment announcement has come from that department, and that should also tell you how important this is. So with that said, I'm at 10:10, and I'm a go now. See, this is short, 10 minutes. Okay, bye. Happy Pride, everybody. I love you all. Be proud. And what a time. What a time. Thank you.